It was a stifling summer night, the kind where the air feels heavy with secrets. Mark and I were seated on our old, creaky balcony, sipping red wine under the dim glow of the moon. Our conversations had always been our sanctuary, a dance of words where we hid nothing from each other. Or so he believed. "Mark," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, trembling like the leaves in the gentle night breeze. "There's something I need to tell you. Something important." He turned to me, his eyes reflecting the trust one was about to shatter. "What is it, Elise? How do you confess to the man you love that his trust, his unwavering loyalty, was built on a foundation of lies? How do you tell him that the warmth he feels in our bed has been shared with others?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my confession pressing down on me. "I've been unfaithful," I said, the words escaping like prisoners from my lips. Mark froze, his wine glass pausing midway to his mouth. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the distant sound of a car passing by. I watched as a myriad of emotions played across his face: confusion, disbelief, hurt. "But why, Elise?" His voice was a mix of pain and incredulity. "I thought we were happy." I looked away, unable to bear the pain in his eyes. "I don't know," I lied. The truth was far more complex, entangled in a web of desires and fears I wasn't ready to unravel. Mark set down his glass, his hands shaking slightly. "Is there someone else? Someone you love?" "No, it's not about love. It's, how could I explain the thrill, the rush of adrenaline that came from the chase, the conquest? How could I tell him that it was never about the other men, but about the escape they offered from the monotony of our everyday life?" He stood up, pacing back and forth on the balcony. "How long, Elise, how long has this been going on?" I swallowed hard. "Months," I confessed. Each word felt like a betrayal, yet with each confession, I felt a burden lifting. Mark stopped pacing and looked at me, his face a mask of hurt and betrayal. "I need some time to think about this," he said quietly, then walked back into our apartment, leaving me alone with my guilt in the haunting silence of the night. As I sat there, the cool night air brushing against my skin, I realized the enormity of what I had done. I had broken the heart of the only man who had ever truly loved me. And for what? A few fleeting moments of excitement. The night stretched on, and I sat there, lost in my thoughts, wondering if the dawn would bring forgiveness or the end of everything we had built together. The balcony, once a haven of laughter and whispered dreams, now felt like a cold, judgmental witness to my confession. Mark's absence inside our apartment echoed loudly in my heart. His footsteps, once a comforting rhythm in our shared space, now sounded like the ticking of a clock, counting down the moments of a relationship in peril. I hugged my knees, staring out into the darkness. The city lights flickered in the distance, indifferent to the turmoil within me. I thought about the men, the anonymous faces in the crowd that had momentarily filled a void I couldn't even name. They were escapes, each one a detour from a path I had willingly chosen with Mark. But why? Was it the thrill? The desire to feel wanted in a way that was different from the steady love Mark offered? Or was it something deeper, a fear of the mundane, of being ordinary? My mind circled these questions like a bird of prey, yet I found no satisfying answers. I remembered the first time. It was a chance encounter, a spark that ignited something reckless within me. Each subsequent affair was a chase for that initial high, a desperate grasp at feeling alive. But each time, as the stranger's touch cooled, I was left colder, more hollow than before. The door to the balcony slid open, and Mark reappeared, his face unreadable. He sat down beside me, his presence both a comfort and a reminder of the pain I had caused. "Talk to me, Elise," he said softly. "Help me understand." I turned to face him, the man I loved, the man I had betrayed. "It's like I'm two people, Mark. One who loves you deeply, who cherishes every moment with you. And another who's driven by something I can't control, a force that pushes me away from you, towards danger, towards the unknown." Mark's eyes searched mine, looking for the woman he knew. "Is it something I did?" Something I'm not giving you? No, it's not you. It's me. It's all me, I said, feeling the sting of tears. You've been nothing but wonderful. It's my own demons, my own insecurities and desires. We sat in silence, the night wrapping around us like a shroud. Mark took my hand, his grip firm yet gentle. What happens now, Elise? Can we move past this? I wanted to say yes, to promise him that it would never happen again. But the truth was, I didn't know. The part of me that sought these affairs was still there, lurking in the shadows of my heart. I don't know, Mark. I want to say we can. I want to make things right. But I'm scared. Scared that I'll hurt you again. Mark nodded, his eyes glistening in the moonlight. I love you, Elise. But I don't know if that's enough anymore. His words cut through me, a painful yet honest admission. We were at a crossroads, our future together uncertain. The night air grew chillier as we sat there, lost in our thoughts, each grappling with the reality of a love tested by betrayal. As dawn approached, with its promise of a new day, I wondered if our relationship, like the night, was coming to an end. Or if, somehow, we could find a way to begin again, to rebuild from the ruins of my indiscretions. The sun's first rays peeked over the horizon, casting a soft light over our world. In that moment, I made a silent vow. If Mark chose to stay, to give us another chance, I would fight my demons. I would fight for us. But the choice was his. And as the city awoke around us, I waited, with bated breath, for his decision. A week had passed since that fateful night on the balcony. The air between Mark and me was thick with unspoken words and unresolved tensions. He hadn't left, but the distance in his eyes told a story of a love wounded deeply. I busied myself with mundane tasks, trying to fill the silence of our apartment. As I sorted through a pile of old clothes, my hand brushed against the smooth fabric of a mask. It was from the masked ball, the night that ignited the latest chain of events. I sat down, the mask in my hands, and my mind drifted back to that evening. It was a charity event, a grand affair with a theme of mystery and intrigue. I went alone, Mark having been caught up with work. The ballroom was a sea of masked faces, laughter and music, creating a world detached from reality. I remember feeling a sense of freedom, an anonymity that was intoxicating. It was there that I met him, a stranger with piercing eyes that saw through my mask. Our conversation was light, flirtatious, and dangerously exciting. As the night progressed, our exchanges grew more intimate, the crowded room fading into the background. When he asked me to meet him in one of the secluded gardens, I knew I was crossing a line. Yet, I couldn't resist. The thrill, the adrenaline rush of the forbidden was overpowering. In that hidden corner, under the moonlight, I gave in to temptation, losing myself in the arms of a man whose name I didn't even know. The memory of that night was a sharp contrast to the present. I looked around our apartment, at the photos of Mark and me, smiling, happy. What had I been searching for in the arms of strangers that I couldn't find here, in the home we had built together? A knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Mark, returning from his evening walk. He paused when he saw the mask in my hands, his expression unreadable. "Remembering the ball?" he asked, his voice steady but cold. I nodded, placing the mask back in the box. "It was a mistake, Mark. A moment of madness." He sighed, sitting beside me. "Elise, I've been thinking a lot. About us. About what you told me. I can't pretend everything is okay. It's not. But I also can't deny that I still love you." I reached for his hand, finding it trembling slightly. "I love you too, Mark. More than you can imagine. And I regret what I did, deeply." He looked at me, his eyes searching for something, perhaps a glimmer of the woman he fell in love with. "I want to believe we can get past this, Elise. But I need time. And I need honesty. No more secrets, no more lies." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. no more secrets, I promise. We spent the rest of the evening in a fragile peace, each lost in our own thoughts, yet together. The masked ball remained a shadow, a reminder of a choice that could not be undone. And as we went to bed, the distance between us felt like a chasm, yet there was a glimmer of hope, a chance for redemption. That night, I dreamt of masked strangers and hidden gardens, but above all, I dreamt of a future where the masks were gone, and all that remained was the raw, honest love I still held for Mark. Days turned into weeks, and the strained silence between Mark and me began to thaw, slowly, cautiously. We were like dancers, carefully choreographing our steps around each other, afraid to make the wrong move. Then, one rainy Thursday evening, as I was preparing dinner, Mark walked into the kitchen with a look that stopped me in my tracks. He held an envelope in his hand, its contents already known to him, yet unknown to me. "Elise, what is this?" His voice was calm, but I could see the storm brewing in his eyes. I didn't need to look inside the envelope to know. It was the evidence of my latest affair, one I thought I had concealed well. My heart sank. "Mark, I..." He tossed the envelope onto the kitchen counter. Inside were photos, unambiguous and damning. Photos of me with another man, captured in moments of indiscretion. "How, Elise, how could you continue to do this?" Mark's voice broke, the pain evident. "After everything you said, after all the promises." I stood there, frozen, the lies crumbling around me. "I don't know, Mark. I thought I could stop, I wanted to stop." The rain pattered against the window, a rhythmic reminder of the world outside, indifferent to the heartache within. "Who is he?" Mark asked, his gaze piercing through me. "A nobody, just someone I met." I trailed off, realizing how hollow my words sounded. Mark shook his head, a mix of anger and sorrow etching his features. "Do you even love me, Elise? Or am I just a safety net for you?" His question cut deep. "I do love you, Mark. More than you can ever imagine. But there's this part of me, this destructive part that I can't seem to control." Mark looked away, his shoulders slumped. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Elise. I don't know if I can be part of this cycle of betrayal." I reached out to him, but he stepped back, a clear sign of the growing divide between us. "Please, Mark, let's talk about this. We can get help, see a therapist." He sighed, running his fingers through his hair. "I need to think, Elise. I need to figure out what I want, what's best for me." With those words, he grabbed his coat and left, leaving me alone with the damning evidence of my infidelity. The kitchen, once a place of shared meals and laughter, felt cold and foreign. As I heard the door close behind him, a sense of dread filled me. This time, I feared, Mark might not come back. And I wouldn't blame him. That night, as I lay in bed, listening to the rain and the silence of the apartment, I realized that I was at a crossroads. One path led to a life without Mark, a future where my actions had finally pushed away the one person who had stood by me. The other was a path of redemption, of facing my demons and fighting to save what little was left of our relationship. But the choice was not mine alone. Mark had a say, and I feared his decision. The night felt endless, each drop of rain a reminder of the tears we had both shed. In the darkness, I made a silent vow. If Mark gave me another chance, I would do everything in my power to change, to be the partner he deserved. But deep down, I knew that some promises were easier made than kept. And as I drifted into a restless sleep, the crossroads loomed large in my mind, the outcome uncertain, the future uncharted. The days following Mark's discovery were a blur of confusion and solitude. Mark had moved out temporarily, saying he needed space to think. The apartment, once filled with our shared dreams, now echoed with the silence of my guilt. In a desperate search for understanding, I found myself driving to my hometown, a place I hadn't visited in years. The familiar streets and old houses were like echoes of a past I had long tried to forget. I parked outside my childhood home, now occupied by another family. Memories flooded in, of simpler times, of a young girl with dreams untainted by the complexities of adult life. It was here, in this very town, where the seeds of my turmoil were sown. I drove to the local park, a place where I had spent countless hours as a teenager. Sitting on a weathered bench, I let my mind wander back to those formative years. There was someone from those days, a first love, whose memory still lingered in the corners of my heart. His name was Alex, and he was my high school sweetheart. We were young, naive, and deeply in love, or so I believed. It was with Alex that I first experienced the joys and pains of love, the thrill of being desired. But it was also with Alex that I experienced my first betrayal. I remembered the day I learned of Alex's infidelity, a day that shattered my teenage heart. I had walked in on him with another girl, their betrayal clear and undeniable. The pain of that moment was searing, an open wound that, perhaps, had never truly healed. That betrayal had instilled in me a fear, a deep-seated insecurity that I had carried into my adult life. Was it this fear that drove me into the arms of other men? A subconscious attempt to protect myself from being hurt again? As I pondered these questions, I realized that my actions, my continuous search for something elusive in the embrace of strangers, might have been a misguided attempt to reclaim control. Control over my emotions, over my vulnerability. But in seeking control, I had spiraled into chaos, hurting not only myself but the one person who had offered me genuine love and stability, Mark. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park. I knew it was time to leave, to return to the present and face the consequences of my actions. But this journey into the past had been necessary, a painful yet enlightening trek into the roots of my behavior. As I drove back to the city, the lights of the skyline twinkling in the distance, I felt a resolve forming within me. I needed to confront my past, to heal the wounds that had silently bled into my relationship with Mark. Whether or not Mark and I could salvage our love remained uncertain. But I knew one thing for sure, I had to try. For Mark, for our love, and most importantly, for myself. That night, I lay in bed, surrounded by the memories of what Mark and I had once shared. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with introspection and change. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope, a chance to break free from the chains of my past and step into a new, uncertain future. I spent the next few days in a state of introspection, piecing together the fragments of my past and present. It was during one of these reflective moments that I received a call from Mark. His voice was calm, but I could sense an underlying tension. "Elise, can we meet? There's something we need to discuss," he said. My heart raced at the prospect of seeing him again. "Of course, Mark. Anywhere you want." We agreed to meet at a small cafe we used to frequent, a place that held memories of laughter and shared dreams. As I walked in, I saw him sitting at our usual table, his posture rigid, his eyes reflecting a mix of emotions. "Mark," I greeted, my voice wavering slightly. He nodded, motioning for me to sit down. "Elise, I've been doing a lot of thinking," he began. "About us. About everything that's happened." I clasped my hands together, bracing myself for what was to come. "I understand. And I'm sorry, Mark. For all the pain I've caused." He sighed, looking out the window. "I know you are. And I believe you want to change. But there's something else." A lump formed in my throat. "What is it?" Mark turned to me, his expression somber. "I've been contacted by someone. Another man you were involved with. He showed me messages, photos. It was recent, Elise." The room seemed to spin as I processed his words. Another indiscretion. Another secret I had kept from Mark, now exposed. "Mark, How many more are there, Elise?" His voice was a mix of sadness and frustration. "How many more secrets?" I had no words, only tears that threatened to spill. My silence was answer enough. Mark leaned back, running his hands through his hair. "I wanted to believe we could work through this, that our love was strong enough. But now, I don't know if I can. I reached across the table, trying to bridge the gap that had grown between us. Mark, please. I know I've messed up, more than I can ever make right. But I want to try. I want to fix this. He looked at my hand, then back at me. I need to be honest with myself, Elise. And with you. I can't keep living in this cycle of pain and forgiveness. It's not fair to either of us. Tears streamed down my face, as the reality of his words sank in. So, what are you saying? Mark took a deep breath. I think it's time we go our separate ways. I need to heal, Elise. And I think you do too, but not together. Not anymore. His words felt like a final blow, the end of a chapter that I had desperately hoped would have a different ending. I understand. I managed to say, though every word felt like a shard of glass in my heart. We sat in silence, the weight of his decision hanging between us. The cafe, once a place of joy, now felt like a witness to the end of our love story. As we stood up to leave, Mark looked at me, a hint of the love we once shared in his eyes. I'll always care for you, Elise. But I need to let you go. And with those final words, he walked away, leaving me alone amidst the remnants of our shattered relationship. I sat back down, my heart breaking in the silence of the cafe. That day marked the beginning of a new journey for me, a journey of self-discovery and healing. A journey to understand why I had sabotaged the one good thing in my life, and how I could prevent it from happening again. As I left the cafe, the sun setting in the distance, I knew the road ahead would be long and challenging. But it was a road I had to take, for this bachelorette party is going to be the death of me, seriously, who wants to stumble around in those ridiculous heels, downing overpriced cocktails while screaming over terrible music. The thought alone makes my smile feel fake. It's not even about Mark, bless his heart, it's just that I never was the wild party girl. If it were up to me, we'd do a spa thing. But no one's asking me. At work, I can't seem to focus. Kyle's been on my mind, the memory of his kiss a tingling warmth I don't know what to do with. He's probably just some smooth-talking consultant, passing the time with a harmless flirtation. Still, I keep replaying him explaining that stupid budget spreadsheet, his hand grazing mine. It was electric. Hey, you okay? Lisa, from accounting, pops by my desk, interrupting my scandalous daydream. You look a little flushed. Crap. I probably do. Just a headache, I lie. I'm not getting involved in office gossip over some crush. Back home, everything feels off. Like the air is thick. Mark's acting normal, cheerful even, making dinner plans. But he's watching me, and I can't shake the feeling he knows something. Knows about Kyle and the kiss. It's crazy, he couldn't. Right? Then I see it. An envelope on the kitchen counter. It's cream-colored, expensive-looking, no return address. My name is scrawled across the front in a neat, unfamiliar hand. My heart does a weird little flip. It couldn't be about Kyle, could it? This is insane. A stalker? A secret admirer? That came for you earlier, Mark says, too casually. My hands tremble as I reach for it. Not about Kyle then, this is about something else. Mark's watching me, a tightness around his mouth. I slide a finger under the flap, and a photo slips out. My world collapses. It's me and Kyle at the secluded bar downtown, the one Mark knows nothing about. We're laughing, way too close. He caught us, he knows. A wave of nausea washes over me. Every lie, every stolen moment flashes in my head like some sick horror movie. Mark didn't just know, he hired someone to follow me. He was setting me up. But why? Is this some twisted punishment? Or does he have more planned? I look out the window, the sun setting, and a sense of dread colder than anything I've ever known settles over me. The photo burns a hole in my pocket. I need to destroy it, hide the evidence, but I can't seem to move. Mark's humming in the kitchen, oblivious, or maybe not. Maybe he's enjoying this, watching me squirm. The thought fuels a rush of anger beneath the rising panic. My phone buzzes. It's Kyle. Hey, everything okay? The text is innocently cheerful, like he hasn't just ruined my life. I want to scream, ask him what he was thinking, but I know better. I type back, yeah, just crazy day at work. Playing it cool feels like swallowing broken glass. Mark calls me for dinner, and it's like a switch flips. I paste on my best normal wife smile, the one he used to love, and I pretend everything's fine. The food tastes like ash. The whole time, I'm planning my escape. I need to think, need space. Honey, I completely forgot, my mom wants me to help her with something this weekend, you don't mind, right? Please say yes, please don't see through my pathetic lie. He shrugs. Sure, no problem, he's not even trying. Is he relieved to get rid of me? Or does he have bigger plans in store? My thoughts spin in the darkness long after he falls asleep. The next morning, I fake a headache and linger in bed while he leaves. The second I hear the door click, I'm up, racing to find his phone. I know this is low, but I'm desperate. Surely there must be some clue, a number for the private detective, an angry text, anything. His phone is surprisingly clean. A few work emails, texts with his buddies about some sports game. My heart sinks. He's smarter than this, he's covered his tracks. But wait, there's one unknown number, just a string of digits. Could it be? I grab my own phone, fingers shaking, and type the number into a reverse lookup website. Everything goes cold, it's registered to some shady-looking investigations firm in the city. Bingo. Now what? Confront him? Pretend I know nothing? Suddenly, I feel eyes on me. I swivel around. There, framed in the doorway is my neighbor, Mrs. Evans, holding a basket of muffins. Did she see me snooping? Just wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood, dear. Her voice is syrupy sweet, but her eyes gleam with nosy curiosity. I force a smile, the muffins burning a hole through the basket. My lies are piling up, and the walls are closing in. That night, I dream of being chased by shadows, their whispered accusations swirling in the darkness. I wake up in a sweat, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm. Mark's side of the bed is empty. Did he find something else while I was sleeping? Are there more photos? My frantic search turns up nothing. He's either insanely good at this or he's playing a longer game than I can fathom. The next few days unravel in a blur of frantic texts with Kyle, my lifeline to sanity, or insanity itself. I can't tell anymore. And excruciatingly normal interactions with Mark. He cooks my favorite meals, asks about my day at work. It's torture, this play acting when all I want to do is scream. But there are cracks in his facade. When I think he's not looking, his eyes have a coldness to them. He spends hours on his laptop, then slams it shut when I enter the room. What is he doing? Searching for more dirt on me and Kyle, or planning his revenge? The not knowing is gnawing me away from the inside out. Things take a terrifying turn on the third night. As I get up for a glass of water, I hear muffled sounds, voices, from the living room. My pulse races. Mark talking to himself, or someone else? I creep closer, my bare feet silent on the hallway carpet. The voices become clearer. It's Mark, definitely, but he's not alone. My stomach drops. He's on the phone, his voice low and intense. Yeah, I've got the evidence. Absolutely sure. Don't care what she thinks, just get it done. It's enough. My head spins, nausea rising in my throat. He's talking to a lawyer. Finalizing the divorce, probably plotting ways to take me for everything I have. I stumble back to the bedroom, my mind a panicked mess. This isn't just about catching a cheater anymore, it's about survival. The next morning, I act like nothing happened. We have breakfast, the tension between us so thick you could cut it with a knife. I need a plan. Kyle suggests running away together, but that feels like pure fantasy. On impulse, as Mark's leaving for work, I slip his car keys from his pocket. Desperate times, right? Later, while he's at the office, I drive to his lawyer's building. It's a fancy high-rise downtown. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but sitting around feeling helpless isn't an option anymore. I need to know exactly what I'm up against. I park blocks away from Mark's lawyer's office, a knot of dread twisting in my gut. What the hell am I even doing here? This is insane, but I need answers, even if I don't like what I find. The building directory lists his lawyer's firm on the 10th floor. As I ride the elevator, a wave of imposter syndrome washes over me. I look out of place in my casual jeans and hoodie, surrounded by people in sleek suits. Do I have the guts to actually walk into his office, demand information? Am I about to do something I'll massively regret? On the 10th floor, I hesitate outside the polished glass doors. Baker, Jensen, and Associates, the gold lettering gleams. This is where my marriage goes to die. I'm about to turn and flee when I see a figure sitting in the reception area. And my blood runs cold. It's a woman, young, ridiculously beautiful, her long blonde hair a perfect sheet framing her heart-shaped face. She's wearing a power suit and designer heels, the kind of woman I'd never feel threatened by. Until now. She looks up, startled by my presence, and I realize with a sickening jolt, I've seen her before. In the photo with Kyle and me in that bar. She must have been the one taking it. She was working with the investigator, and now she's here at Mark's lawyer's office. She's the other woman. Mark's revenge affair. A red-hot fury ignites in me, replacing the fear. How dare he? How dare they both? I stomp towards the reception desk. The woman is already on her feet, her eyes wide with surprise, probably recognizing me now too. Can I help you? The receptionist's tone is crisp and unwelcoming. I'm here to see Mark, I start, the name feeling like poison on my tongue. Suddenly, the blonde woman steps forward. Excuse me, she says, her voice like honeyed silk. Do you mind if I speak with you privately? There's a flicker of something in her eyes, a challenge mixed with, almost pity. I want to refuse, to demand my right to see Mark's lawyer, but the exhaustion hits me suddenly. I just want this whole nightmare to be over. I nod numbly. Out in the hallway, she speaks quietly. Look, This is awkward. I know what you're thinking, but I'm not sleeping with your husband. He hired me, yes, for a different reason. My mind scrambles to make sense of her words. Not his mistress, then what? You don't believe me? Her smile is a little sad. I can't give details, but he's not out for blood. Well, maybe a little. But ultimately, this isn't about you and me, it's about something bigger. She leaves me standing there, more confused than ever, a whirlwind of emotions threatening to rip me apart. What is Mark's real game, and what the hell is happening to my life? The following days are a dizzying, terrifying blur. That night, after the encounter with Mark's mystery woman, I go straight to Kyle's hotel room. It feels like an act of defiance, a reckless lunge into the abyss, and it's both exhilarating and petrifying. Kyle's touch, once thrilling, now has an edge of desperation. It's less about love and more about clinging to some semblance of twisted normalcy in a world gone mad. Every stolen hour, every risky text, feels like I'm tightening a noose around my own neck. With my friends, I'm a shell of myself. My best friend, Sarah, watches me with growing concern. One morning, over mimosas that barely hide the dark circles under my eyes, she speaks. Look, I don't want to pry, but you haven't been yourself. Is everything okay? My stomach churns. Of course, I force a laugh. Just wedding stress, you know me, terrible with details. If only she knew the depths of my deceit. That night, I nearly blow my cover. We're all getting ready for dinner. A fancy final night thing my friends planned, when I realize I left my earrings, an anniversary gift from Mark, in my room. As I slip away to retrieve them, Sarah follows close behind. Wait, I forgot something too, she announces. My heart slams against my ribs. Back in my room, I frantically search for the earrings, but all I can see is Kyle's face, the feel of his hands. Sarah startles me, standing in the doorway, her usual playful smile replaced by a frown. Are you sure you're okay? Her voice is soft, but the accusation is loud in the silence. I feel myself breaking under her gaze. I want to scream, confess, beg for her help. But I can't. The shame is a crushing weight. Instead, I do what I've become so good at, I lie. A tear escapes, a final desperate ploy for sympathy, and it works. Sarah softens, blaming my emotional outburst on stress. She gives me a hug, and the relief, mixed with self-loathing, nearly brings me to my knees. Later that night, I get another shock. Back at the hotel, as I'm waiting for Kyle, a text comes through on my burner phone. It's from Mark, a single line, chilling in its simplicity. I know what you've been doing. It feels like my world is imploding. The text from Mark is a bomb, counting down the seconds until my entire life explodes. Every time my phone buzzes, I jump, imagining it's him, delivering the final blow. Kyle, when I try to warn him, is useless. Chill out, babe, he texts back, your husband's a wimp. We'll handle this. I want to scream at him, at myself, at the whole damn stupid world. Mark, meanwhile, has transformed into some kind of icy stranger. He sleeps on the couch, barely speaks to me, except for coldly efficient instructions about packing my things. At work, I move through my days in a haze, the whispering behind my back a constant torment. How did I not see this coming? I'm drowning when the lifeline comes from an unexpected source. Sarah sends a text, simple but firm. Meet me at the cafe, 6 p.m., no excuses. I hesitate. Does she know? Does she want me to confess so I can beg for forgiveness? Pride and terror war within me, but in the end, desperate loneliness wins. At the cafe, Sarah waits at our usual table, her expression unreadable. No accusations, just a pot of tea and a plate of cookies. My throat tightens, grateful for the simple gesture of normalcy, even if I don't deserve it. You don't have to say anything, Sarah says, after pouring a steaming cup for me. But listen. If you need help, a place to stay, anything, I'm here. Friendship isn't just for the good times, okay? Her words break the dam. The tears flow freely, a messy mix of shame, relief, and gratitude. I outline the broad strokes. The affair, Mark's discovery, how scared I am. And Sarah, bless her heart, does exactly what I needed. She listens, she offers logistical advice, not judgment. As we leave the cafe, a weight has lifted, just slightly. There are monstrous problems ahead. The divorce, the fallout, the sheer mess of what I've done. But with Sarah's unwavering support, it somehow feels less impossible. Late that night, Mark comes home, the lawyer's papers in his hand. He doesn't try to sugarcoat it. The prenup I never thought twice about is ironclad, the evidence against me damning. He wants the divorce over with fast, and he's not giving me a dime unless I try to fight him in court, which he hints would expose details I'd rather keep hidden. Looking at my broken reflection in the window, the luxurious hotel suite reflected behind me, a wave of bitter realization crashes over me. My fairy tale ending was always a delusion, and I'm paying the price for believing otherwise. I'm not even sure I recognize the woman packing her life into oversized trash bags. My reflection in the bathroom mirror is a stranger, pale, sunken eyes, a haunted look I can't hide. It's a far cry from the polished, happy bride-to-be I pretended to be not so long ago. Moving out of the apartment feels like an amputation. Mark watches coldly as I haul my pathetic boxes out to a dented rental car, the same car Sarah helped me find. Our goodbye is a single, harsh word, pathetic. It echoes in my head as I drive away, blending with the hum of the cheap car engine and the tears I can no longer hold back. My new reality is a cramped studio apartment on the wrong side of town. I fill it with bargain furniture, but it feels hollow, echoing with the absence of life. Sarah calls, a lifeline in the bleak silence. She invites me to dinners, girls' nights, anything to combat the isolation closing in, but I keep making excuses. I can't bear the pity in their eyes, the unspoken blame. Work, however, doesn't give me the luxury of hiding. My old job vanished in a cloud of gossip the moment Mark filed the papers. Desperation forces me to waitress at a greasy diner, the snide comments from coworkers a constant reminder of my spectacular fall from grace. It gets worse. Everywhere I go, it feels like the stairs follow. People whisper, some even laugh in that cruel way that cuts deeper than any insult. I used to love this city, but now it feels like a prison, every street corner holding evidence of my past mistakes and shame. The final blow comes on a day I'm working a double shift, exhausted and aching. A group of women I vaguely recognize, wives from my old social circle, come in on a laughing lunch date. They don't see me at first, and their conversation slices through me. Can you believe what she did? So trashy. Her poor husband, I always liked him. Well, she got what she deserved, right? Tears blur my vision as I serve them, gritting my teeth to stop from breaking down completely. The humiliation burns, but worse is the voice whispering in my head, maybe they're right. That night, Kyle finally resurfaces. Not with apologies or support, but asking for money. Apparently, he's in some vague trouble and thinks I owe him. It's the final straw. I block his number and sink onto the stained carpet, sobbing until no energy remains. Rock bottom isn't a sudden crash, I realize, it's a slow, grinding descent. And, terrifyingly, I'm not quite sure if I've reached it yet. The bus rumbles on, each stop bringing us closer to the edge of the city, my mirrored reflection the only company. I look skeletal, the vibrant woman I once was a faded memory. I left that woman behind along with my name, my history, a desperate attempt to shed the shame that clings to me like a shroud. The new city isn't welcoming. The apartment is a windowless box, the stale air heavy with the scent of old carpet and despair. Every night, a symphony of nightmares unfolds. Mark's accusing stare, Sarah's disappointed silence, Kyle's mocking laughter chasing me down endless dark corridors. I wake up drenched in sweat, gasping for air that tastes of failure. The bottle has become my only reliable companion. I tell myself a few drinks at night just take the edge off, but the edge has become a chasm. Mornings start with nausea, the shaky attempts to make coffee just a prelude to the inevitable search for more liquor. It's a vicious cycle. I drink to forget, yet the forgetting makes everything worse. Out in the world, I'm on autopilot. My shifts at the diner are a blur of greasy plates, demanding customers, and the low thrum of pity and judgment beneath every interaction. Some nights, the desperation gets too much. I find myself in dingy bars, seeking solace in the fleeting attention of strangers, the sting of cheap whiskey burning away the emptiness, at least for a little while. But even those stolen moments are devoid of joy. I stare at my reflection in grimy bathroom mirrors and barely recognize the woman staring back. Each encounter leaves me feeling more hollow, another piece of myself chipped away. The money trickles away, rent goes unpaid, ignored despite the increasingly angry notes taped to my door. My phone gets cut off, the silence amplifying the voices in my head. Finally, the inevitable happens. I arrive home one evening to a padlock on the door, my pathetic belongings in lumpy garbage bags piled on the sidewalk. The night that follows is a fragmented blur of rain-soaked streets, flashing neon, and the growing realization that I have nowhere to go. Fear claws at me as I stumble down unfamiliar alleys, searching for any kind of shelter. Every shadow seems to hold a threat, making me regret tossing the small pocket knife Sarah tried to give me. I thought it was overreacting, how stupid I was. Finally, exhausted and drenched, I collapse on a bench under a dim streetlight. Despair washes over me in icy waves. This is it, the final stop on my disastrous journey. Part of me is relieved the struggle will soon be over. Suddenly, footsteps echo, and a rough voice breaks through my numb fog. "Hey lady, you gotta move along, this ain't a hotel." Terror spikes in me as a figure emerges from the shadows. This is how it ends, I think, some gruesome end in a dark corner of a city that doesn't care. But as the figure gets closer, bathed in the harsh streetlight, something shimmers. Recognition? Sarah? I croak, my voice a broken whisper. It's her, my best friend, 1,000 miles from home and the last person on earth I'd expect to find me here. The bus stop bench is hard and unforgiving under me, a stark contrast to how soft I've become. Weakness brought me here. If only I hadn't dialed that number, my only thread of connection to a past I was too ashamed to face. My parents' voices echo in my memory, a mixture of resigned disappointment and strained pity. They'll send some money, a pathetic lifeline they know I'll squander. Nights blur together, when the shelter becomes too claustrophobic, too dangerous, I curl up on a rotting park bench. I huddle in the shadows, pretending sleep will ward off the curious stares and muffled jeers that sometimes follow me. The cold seeps into my bones, a brutal reminder that warmth is a luxury I no longer deserve. The arrest feels almost inevitable. Hunger gnaws at my belly, and my shaking hands fumble with a granola bar I never intended to pay for. The security guard has a look in his eyes I've seen mirrored back at me too many times, a mix of disgust and a predatory glint. The courtroom is a haze of legalese and indifferent faces. The public defender barely looks at me, offering a plea deal as his solution to getting rid of my pathetic case quickly. Community service. A fine I'll never be able to pay, yet another punishment I've more than earned. Scrubbing highway rest stop toilets becomes my new existence. I fight a constant wave of nausea against the stench of waste and cheap disinfectant. Every time I see my reflection in the cracked mirror, I recoil. This gaunt, haunted woman isn't me, and yet, it's exactly who I've become. My body betrays me too. Crossing the street one morning, exhaustion making me careless, a car slams through a yellow light, its brakes screeching. Pain explodes in my leg, and the world spins into darkness. I wake up in a hospital bed, the antiseptic smell a jarring change from my usual grime. A nurse bustles in, and as she adjusts a flash of recognition crosses her face. The whispers start almost immediately, like cockroaches scattering when a light flicks on, nurses and the occasional bored-looking doctor exchanging knowing glances. I heard about her, they don't need to say. The gossip from back home has traveled even here. The release brings no relief, just a stack of bills I know I'll never pay and a slight limp as a reminder. As I sit on a bus stop bench, the same one where I cried myself into a stupor after my parents' call, it hits me. I'm dying. Not quickly, but piece by piece, day by agonizing day. A glance up the street brings the decisions starkly into focus. The overpass, its concrete barrier, a grim promise of an end to this relentless misery. Every step towards it feels lighter, a perverse kind of hope rising within me. The traffic below is just a blur. This isn't a surrender, it's the only act of control I have left. An end to the shame, the regret, the reflection of the monster I've become. This time, there'll be no one. Hi everyone, this is my story. It will be a very long one, so grab some popcorn and enjoy. I'd love to see what you have to say about this. So, I'm a 25-year-old female, engaged to my 33-year-old boyfriend. We've known each other since 2015, started out as a one-night stand, built a relationship together, fell in love, and I've saved him from 2 suicides so far. We got engaged 2 years ago, and moved in together 1.5 years ago. He lived alone, while I lived with my mother and sister, and wanted to start a new life. I do everything I can for him. His mental health is terrible. I work 40 hours a week, while he stopped working 5 months ago due to his mental health. Due to legal trouble, he's not getting any money from the state or his previous employer, so he's living off my income. He first cheated on me in late 2021, before we moved in together, but managed to hide it from me for a few months. He's not sure about his sexuality, probably bi. He desperately wants to get expletive, but is in love with me, so he slept with a gay friend of ours at a sleepover while I was sleeping on the couch about 2 meters away from them. It happened 3 more times at the friend's home. The gay friend couldn't hide it any longer, told me about it, and my BF admitted it right away. We talked about it, and I tried to move on. It was the first time he broke my heart. Fast forward to January 2023. He was finally readmitted into the army. He fought for it for 6 years, but there were some problems with the paperwork, and was stationed about 500 kilometers away from home. Understandably, he felt lonely being away from home. He still came home on weekends because the army paid for his tickets, but I was working most Saturdays, so we only had Sunday morning together before he had to leave for work again. You can start to see where this is going. So, being away from me, he started texting on gay sites and Tinder to find someone to talk with. No sex yet, just catfishing. Still, he sent nudes and asked to be invited over, I bet, because it's hard to arrange, expletive, dates at army bases. I'm sure after a few weeks he actually cheated on me again. After 6 months, it was over with the army because his mental health couldn't handle being so far away from home, and probably the cheating, so he became unemployed and came back home. He hit the fan when he invited guys to our home while I was working. I haven't caught him cheating because he fell asleep before his dates arrived. This will be a pattern for most of the people he invited to our home. But I've read his messages. All of them. Including army time. He sent pics and full body nudes with his face to about 30 people. I puked my guts out. I thought the 4 times with the gay friend were the end of it. I thought this was my husband, not a free-for-all. I cried and drank all night. So the next step was a talk with a very close friend, female, of ours. She made sure we didn't hurt each other and provided an outside opinion on this mess. I very generously told him he can have his expletive dates, but only under these conditions. I don't want his expletive on the internet, so the nudes have to stop. He has to stop inviting people to our home because I live there too, god damn it, and I don't feel good at all knowing he's having sex in our bed or couch, that I bought, by the way. He has to talk to me if he's out on a date. A simple, I'm meeting someone today, is enough. No questions asked. First, so that I know he trusts me enough, and second, so I don't get a heart attack if my shift ends earlier than planned. But the pics and especially giving directions to our home need to stop. We agreed upon this. Things didn't change for 3 weeks, so we had another talk. I gave the ultimatum. Either stop cheating on me behind my back or end this relationship. He deleted every chatting app and promised me the moon it wouldn't happen again. I promised I wouldn't read his messages ever again, and he changed his password so I don't even get the chance. That was our friend's idea, and we all agreed upon it. Everything went well until today. He made it 5 months without incidents. I came home from work, he was sleeping, and his phone alarm went off, to remind him to take his medication. He woke up, didn't turn it off right away, and it started again. I asked him to unlock his phone so I could turn it off and let him sleep. He did. He fell asleep. The notification bar showed me 2 missed calls and several text messages from an unknown guy. I panicked, bad foreshadowing, wanted to swipe it away but accidentally tapped on it, only to reveal several nudes sent from my boyfriend, and agreed upon a date 30 minutes after I leave for work, very clear directions to our home, and missed calls because my boyfriend fell asleep again before the date showed up. Ah yes, there's the pattern again. Also, an apology from my boyfriend for missing his date. Then he fell asleep again. It was my mistake reading the chat, but this was my only chance to do so. They texted about masturbating over the phone. My boyfriend told him they needed to be quiet because I was sleeping at that time, wanting to meet up when I wasn't home, my boyfriend talking about his mental health and wanting to be, expletive. My heart was pounding as I was reading all of this, expletive. I'm feeling sick. I texted the friend of ours, it happened again. Now, I'm sitting on the balcony, fuming and drunk, writing this. Tomorrow after work, there will be another talk. I'm excited to see what excuses he will throw at me. I'm done with this. I just want the cheating to end. I wanted to marry this guy, have a family and future together. I seriously don't know if that will happen. Before anyone asks why I'm not leaving. I love this, expletive, to the moon and back, and I don't want to live without him. His face is the most beautiful I've ever seen. He makes me laugh any day of the week. The sex is really good. I know I won't love any other man the same amount I'm loving him. I've done too much and spent way too much money helping him in his life to just give it all up. I make $2,000 a month and have spent approximately $70,000 on him. Just to give you some numbers. But this, expletive, today broke me inside. Again. After the last talk, I started to build trust in him again, but I don't know what to do now. Also, if I leave his cheating, expletive, he will kill himself. He made it clear more than once, because there's no family of his left, and he doesn't get money, so no food, home. And I don't want to live with that guilt either. Thank you so much for reading all of this. Feel free to ask me anything that's still unclear. Anyway, I'll try and get the 3 hours of sleep before going to work again. Please wait for me to respond. I don't get much free time anymore. Update. After the balcony incident, things seemed to be improving, or so I thought. I caught him cheating one last time, and it was the final straw. I came home early from work, expecting to find him alone or maybe asleep. Instead, I walked into our bedroom to find him in bed with both a man and a woman. The shock was indescribable. My heart sank, and a wave of betrayal washed over me like never before. The pain was palpable, seeing them in our bed, a place that once symbolized our love and commitment. I felt numb, and my mind raced with a million thoughts. The surprise, the disbelief, the utter heartbreak, it was overwhelming. I couldn't speak. I just stood there, staring at the scene before me. Eventually, I managed to gather my thoughts. I told them all to leave immediately. The man and woman hastily grabbed their belongings and left, but he tried to explain. I couldn't listen to any more lies or excuses. The trust we once had was shattered beyond repair. I told him it was over between us. He pleaded, cried, and apologized, but I was resolute. I had given him enough chances, and each time he had chosen to betray my trust. This time, I was putting myself first. I asked him to pack his things and leave. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but it was necessary for my own well-being. He initially refused to leave, but I stood firm. I couldn't live with him any longer, not after what he had done. Eventually, he realized I was serious and left the apartment, taking only a few belongings with him. It was a surreal moment, watching him walk out of the door, knowing that this was the end of our journey together. In the days that followed, I learned he had nowhere to go and had become homeless. I heard he was sleeping in parks and under bridges, a stark contrast to the life we once shared. It pained me to know he was struggling, but I also knew I had to protect my own mental and emotional health. I couldn't be responsible for him any longer. I struggled with guilt and sadness, but as time passed, I began to heal. I realized that ending the relationship was the best decision for both of us. He needed to face his own demons, and I needed to rebuild my life without the constant fear and betrayal. The whole experience taught me a lot about love, trust, and self-respect. I learned that sometimes, the hardest decisions are the ones that lead to the most growth. I'm now focused on healing and moving forward, one day at a time. It's a new chapter for me, and while it's scary to navigate the world alone again, I feel stronger and more resilient than ever. I know now that I deserve someone who respects and values me, and I'm hopeful that one day, I'll find that. Second update. Just when I thought I had started to move past the chaos, things took an unexpected and complicated turn. He attempted to return to the apartment, claiming that since we were practically married, I had no right to throw him out like that. His argument was that our long-term relationship gave him some sort of entitlement to the place we had shared. It was a messy situation, with him showing up at the door, begging to be let in, saying he had nowhere else to go. Despite the emotional turmoil he put me through, seeing him in such a desperate state was heart-wrenching. However, I knew that letting him back in would only lead to more pain and chaos. I stood my ground, explaining that our relationship was beyond repair and that he needed to find another place to live. But it didn't stop there. In a twist I never saw coming, he decided to pursue legal action against me. He claimed that I had taken advantage of his mental health issues to control and manipulate him, making him dependent on me. This was utterly false and deeply hurtful. I had spent years trying to support and uplift him, not control him. The accusation felt like a slap in the face, a distortion of everything I had tried to do for our relationship. I found myself entangled in a legal battle that drained me emotionally and financially. It was a nightmare scenario. I had to hire a lawyer to defend myself against the baseless claims. The process was long and grueling, with endless meetings and court dates. It strained my mental health, and there were days I felt like I was at my breaking point. Throughout this ordeal, I leaned heavily on my friends and family for support. They were my rock, helping me stay grounded and reminding me of the truth when I started to doubt myself. It was a reminder of the strength of genuine, supportive relationships, a stark contrast to what I had endured with him. The legal battle eventually came to an end, with the court seeing through his unfounded claims. It was a relief, but the whole experience left a lasting impact on me. The man I once loved had become a stranger, someone willing to hurt and manipulate me to get what he wanted. Now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. It's a slow and sometimes painful process, but I'm learning to trust myself again. I'm exploring new hobbies, reconnecting with old friends, and taking care of my mental health. It's a journey of self-discovery, and though it's born from a place of pain, I'm finding strength and resilience I never knew I had. This entire saga has been a harsh lesson in love, trust, and the complexities of human relationships. It's taught me the importance of setting boundaries and the value of self-respect. While the future is uncertain, I feel more prepared to face whatever comes my way. Third update. As the dust settles and the chaos of the recent events begins to fade, I find myself in a reflective state, often overwhelmed by a deep sense of nostalgia. There are moments when the memories of our life together flood back, and I'm engulfed by sadness and an unexpected sense of regret for how everything ended. I reminisce about the days when our relationship seemed perfect, minus the heartache of his infidelity. There were moments filled with laughter, shared dreams, and deep conversations that made me feel connected to him in a way I hadn't felt with anyone else. We had built a life together, one that was full of love, understanding, and support. I remember the quiet evenings at home, cooking together, watching our favorite shows, and planning our future. These memories are now tinged with a bitter sweetness that is hard to escape. There were times when I felt like the luckiest person in the world to have him by my side. His smile, his sense of humor, and the way he made me feel loved and cherished, these are the things I find myself missing the most. The adventures we embarked on, the small daily rituals we established, and even the mundane moments of everyday life now seem like treasures I took for granted. As I navigate through this period of grief and loss, I grapple with conflicting emotions. On one hand, there's the undeniable pain and betrayal caused by his cheating, a wound that might never fully heal. On the other hand, there's this aching nostalgia for the good times we shared, and a part of me wonders if ending things was the right decision. Could I have done more? Were there signs I ignored? These questions haunt me, leaving me with a sense of regret and longing for what might have been. Despite the tumultuous end, I can't deny that there were aspects of our relationship that were genuinely wonderful. The way he understood me, the comfort of his presence, and the shared hopes for our future, these memories are hard to let go of. It's a strange feeling, mourning the loss of someone who is still alive but no longer a part of my life. I'm learning to accept that it's okay to feel sad and to miss the good times we had, while also recognizing that the relationship had become toxic. It's a delicate balance, trying to hold on to the good memories without letting them overshadow the reasons why things had to end. This period of introspection has been challenging, but it's also been a time of immense personal growth. I'm slowly coming to terms with the end of our relationship and learning to cherish the good memories while letting go of the pain. It's a journey towards healing, and though I'm not there yet, I'm hopeful that with time, I'll find peace and closure. As I close this chapter of my life, I want to share these final thoughts with you all. This journey, filled with love, betrayal, pain, and self-discovery, has been one of the most challenging experiences of my life. But it has also been a journey of immense growth. Looking back, I see a tapestry of moments, both beautiful and painful, that have shaped who I am today. While the betrayal in the end of our relationship brought unimaginable pain, the process of healing has taught me about resilience, self-worth, and the power of moving forward. I've learned that it's okay to mourn what was lost, to feel the pain and sadness of a dream that didn't materialize. But it's also important to recognize when it's time to let go and embrace the future. We all deserve relationships built on trust, respect, and mutual love, and sometimes, the hardest decisions lead us to the greatest opportunities for personal growth and happiness. As I share this story with you, I invite you to reflect on your own experiences, your own challenges, and triumphs in love and life. If you've ever been through something similar or are currently navigating the complexities of relationships, know that you're not alone. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories, and your insights. Please like, share, and comment below to continue this conversation. Let's support each other in our journeys, share our wisdom, and grow together. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Sharing our stories is a powerful way to connect, heal, and find strength in our shared experiences. Thank you for listening, for your support, and for being a part of this journey with me. Here's to finding peace, love, and happiness in our lives, no matter the challenges